We have some breaking news to hit. You're watching Philadelphia Eagles Now by Chat Sports. My name is Chase Sr., and as always, no matter where you are or how you're tuned in, thank you so much for making today's show a part of your day. And think about what's transpired all within the last month for the Philadelphia Eagles. They throttled the Kansas City Chiefs in Super Bowl 59 down in New Orleans. Couple of weeks later, Howie Roseman, Nick Sirianni, the coaching staff in the front office, they're at the NFL Combine in Indianapolis, and that took place last week. Yesterday, Howie Roseman signed Saquon Barkley to a record-breaking contract extension, biggest deal ever for a running back. And then the following day, he signs arguably his defensive MVP from the 2024 season as Zack Baun is going nowhere. Free agency set to get underway on Monday, and Howie Roseman said, let me take care of two of the most important players who helped lift us to our second Lombardi trophy. ESPN's Adam Schefter breaking the news on this Wednesday afternoon on this beautiful March 5th. And this is beautiful news right here. Eagles are re-signing All-Pro linebacker Zack Baun. It's a 3-year, $51 million contract, including $34 million in guaranteed money at signing, with an additional $1.5 million in incentives and escalators. The contract instantly makes Baun one of the highest paid linebackers in the NFL, and that figure rounds out to be exactly $17 million in average annual value. I have talked about bringing back Zack Baun a lot here on the show. This was a must-do move for general manager Howie Roseman because this Eagles defense was the #1 overall unit in the NFL in 2024. What a coaching job by Vic Fangio. But they were really paced specifically by two players. And it all starts up front, I believe, when you scout football and when you watch football. And that's why Howie Roseman builds along the trenches. He called it a healthy obsession, his constant pursuit of trying to find offensive linemen and defensive linemen. And so at the point of attack, Jalen Carter had an all-pro caliber season. But at that second level, behind what was a very stout Eagles defensive line, which was even better in the playoffs and in the Super Bowl as compared to the regular season, was that second level, that linebacking core with Zack Baun. Zack Baun was just incredible for this team from start to finish. And it all got underway with his debut with the Eagles in Brazil against the Green Bay Packers, where he was making game-changing play after game-changing play. And that continued to be the theme for the rest of the season. And after Nakobe Dean went out, he wore the green dot. Vic Fangio relayed the defensive plays to him. He became an on-field leader, a vocal leader, and a cultural leader for this football team. And the Eagles hit on him by signing him to a 1-year deal worth about $3 million. It was one of the best value deals among all 32 teams in the National Football League. And the Eagles identified him as a player who previously, after being a third-round pick out of Wisconsin by the Saints, had only played edge rusher and special teams. Howie and Vic Fangio looked at Baun as a player who was athletic enough and had the traits and versatility to be able to play off-ball linebacker, and he was a first-team All-Pro and a finalist for Defensive Player of the Year. And just like Howie Roseman rewarded Saquon Barkley by having one of the best seasons for a running back in the history of the NFL, the Eagles are rewarding Zack Baun, who is 28 years old, only has 1 year of great production, but was a mainstay for the top defense in the NFL, which completely fooled and perplexed Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. And after making huge play after huge play in the regular season, Zack Baun did it time and time again in the playoffs and in the Super Bowl. TFLs, sacks, quarterback pressures, pass breakups, sticky coverage. The peanut punch became a staple of his game. And because he plays with such good feel, he was able to read and diagnose plays, be at the right place at the right time. He was able to be in a spot before the play really started to develop so that he could make that play. And he was able to drop back in coverage for those pass breakups and some game-altering interceptions. And that impact was really felt from the jump. And after the Eagles had signed him, you're thinking, what is his role going to be? Is Vic Fangio going to utilize him in an Andrew Van Ginkel type of role? Because Van Ginkel with the Dolphins, when Fangio was the DC in 2023, had a breakout year as a pass rusher. But then in training camp, we're starting to hear Zack Baun's making plays. Devin White has been relegated from first team to the second team. Nakobe Dean was climbing up the depth chart. And then it was really Nakobe Dean and Zack Baun who really started to impress this Eagles coaching staff, where they became the two off-ball starting linebackers for this Eagles defense, and they never gave up those roles. Baun, moving forward and in 2024, elite off-ball linebacker, excellent athlete, plug gaps against the run, his versatility on display as a pass rusher. You can tell that he's done a lot of that before, but really what stands out is just the instincts, the feel, the pace, the high IQ that he plays with, and he's a very cerebral player. And at that linebacker spot, it's a little bit different for Philadelphia as compared to other positions on this team. You don't have a clear-cut player who is going to be able to step in for Baun if you lost him in free agency. You're also dealing with a pretty severe injury to Nakobe Dean. That was part of the reason, on top of the elite play, why I thought the Eagles had to bring him back. And in my perfect offseason plan, when we were recording that show outside of Lincoln Financial Field on the eve of the second Eagles Super Bowl parade, I had said the Eagles needed to re-sign Zack Baun. And so fans should be excited about this. And I imagine that Howie got with Vic Fangio, and they came to the agreement, this is a player who we have to retain. And we had a feeling that after the releases of Darius Slay and James Bradberry designating both of those players as post-June 1 cuts, that Howie Roseman was going to be up to something. Is this that something? That money that was cleared up with the releases of Slay and Bradberry cleared up about $6.5 million in cap space. It's not available to the Eagles' disposal until later this offseason. It can't be used in free agency, but that money allocated can help absorb some of these contracts. As far as where Baun is on the highest paid off-ball linebackers list, this is average annual value, average salary per year. Roquan Smith making $20 million per season with the Baltimore Ravens. Fred Warner making just over $19 million with the San Francisco 49ers. Him and Zack Baun were the two first-team All-Pros at that off-ball linebacker spot. Tremaine Edwards has not been good, or Edmonds, has not been good with the Chicago Bears. He's making $18 million. And so when you compare Zack Baun to some of the other players on this list, and obviously there's a pretty big gap between the top four and everybody else, you have to kind of like the value that you get with this Baun deal, but the continued continuity that you get with this Eagles defense as well, with him headlining the second level of that unit. Eagles Super Bowl gear, Zack Baun helped the Eagles lift that Lombardi trophy, is available right now thanks to our friends at Fanatics. All you have to do is plug in that link down below, chatsports.com/EaglesSB. Shirts are for sale, hoodies, hats, jerseys, whatever you need to celebrate that Eagles triumphant Super Bowl 59 victory. You can find it by using that link down below. It's chatsports.com/EaglesSB. I'm going to put that link down below in the show notes and attached to the pinned comment of today's Philadelphia Eagles Now, but be sure to smash that link so that Fanatics knows that Eagles Now sent you. Now, coming up next here on the show, I want to talk about some of the production that we saw from Zack Baun and just give you a really good indication of what he was able to do just by looking at the stats. Because when you watch the games, it just felt as though Baun was everywhere, sideline to sideline, making plays that resulted in so many pivotal Eagles plays and victories this past season. So he played in 16 games. He had 151 tackles. That led the team. 11 TFLs, 3.5 sacks. And when I talk about the versatility for Baun, it was on display with the tackle number leading the team, the TFL number, his ability to make plays against the run, but the sacks and his usage as a pass rusher. As a stand-up pass rusher, either as an edge or in between the tackles, he was able to rack up quarterback pressures, quarterback hits, and sacks. And then, as an off-ball linebacker, too, in coverage, he tallied those 4 pass breakups, 1 interception, but he was a game-changing player with the classic peanut punch that Peanut Tillman made famous when he was playing with the Chicago Bears. And that was something that became an element of Zack Baun's game in the regular season, but also in the playoffs. Big plays really in every single playoff game against Green Bay, against the Rams, against the Commanders, and of course in the Super Bowl against Kansas City. His coverage numbers also excellent. He was targeted 56 times, gave up 40 catches for 279 yards, did not give up a touchdown in coverage, had those 4 pass breakups in the pick in the regular season, and then a quarterback rating when targeted of just 74.9. And going back to the story of Zack Baun, as far as the player development that we saw take place, because he really did come out of nowhere and ended up being a tremendous value signing for Philadelphia, the previous 4 years, he really hadn't done much, right? In 2021, 30 tackles, no TFL, 0 pass breakups, 0 picks. Why? He was used exclusively pretty much by New Orleans as a pass rusher. 2022, 16 tackles, 1 TFL, no pass breakups, no picks. 2023, 17 games played, 30 tackles, 4 TFLs, 2 PBUs, and 1 pick. And Howie Roseman and Vic Fangio started to see some of the ability that he had in that 2023 season. But in 2024, he becomes a full-time player for the first time. He becomes an off-ball linebacker full-time for the first time. And it resulted in him becoming a fan favorite, one of the top defenders in the game, and a player who just made highly impactful and impressive plays over and over and over again. And as part of this conversation, we do have to talk about some of the other Eagles in-house free agents. Saquon Barkley has been taken care of. He wasn't up for a contract extension, but Jeffrey Lurie said he helped us win a Super Bowl. He was great. We only gave him $26 million in guaranteed money, so let's give him the biggest contract ever for a running back. They took care of Saquon Barkley as they should have because Saquon earned that, and that's how you earn stripes with other players, other agents across the NFL, because Howie Roseman's blueprint is out there. If you play well for us, we're going to retain you as part of our core, and we're going to reward you financially, and you're going to have a chance to win and win big in the city of brotherly love. Now, what happens with a couple of players here to my right? I think Milton Williams is gone in free agency. I think he's going to land a deal between $18 and $22 million per season. He's in his mid-20s, had the second highest pass rushing grade among all defensive tackles. He's only played 50% or less of the snaps throughout his career. And so if he goes to a team that pays him a lot, he'll get more snaps. Thus, I think the production goes up. It's also important considering his age, but there's not a lot of tread on the tires. And a lot of teams are looking for elite interior pass rushers, trying to work off the identity of how the Eagles were able to dump truck the Kansas City Chiefs. And so I think Milton Williams gets paid a lot. I thought Baun was going to get between $12 and $15 million per year. I was $2 million off, but he earned that, right? And the linebacker market figures to be somewhat lucrative. Another player who's in the background here of Milton Williams after that sack of Patrick Mahomes is Josh Sweat. I think Josh Sweat goes to a team like Arizona, or he goes to a team like the Commanders if they can't land Myles Garrett, and he gets between $18 and $22 million per year. So I've always said, I think Baun comes back. I think Milton Williams and Josh Sweat leave. I still am a believer that that's going to happen. As for Mekhi Becton, this becomes a little bit of a question, right? Tom Pelissero reported that Aaron Banks of the Niners, who's an average to good player, could get a deal paying him APY, $18 to $20 million per year. He's not even that good. Mekhi Becton is really good as a guard. I think he should stay there. I think that's his more natural position, given his size. I think he's a perfect fit as an interior offensive lineman. But if a team pays Mekhi Becton $15 to $20 million, the Eagles will not pay him that. And I'm not sure that they can after giving more money to Saquon, more money to Zack Baun, and they still have some needs on this roster. And so if they let Becton go, expect Philadelphia cost-controlled asset to elevate Tyler Steen, a third-round pick from 2 years ago, to play at right guard. And when he had to fill in during the 2024 season after somewhat of a rocky rookie year, he performed pretty well. And you have the most confidence that Jeff Stoutland, the best offensive line coach in the NFL, is going to be able to elevate a player like Tyler Steen. So my read now is that Mekhi Becton leaves. Isaiah Rodgers is another marquee in-house free agent. I think with the Eagles letting go of Slay and Bradberry, they find a way to bring back Isaiah Rodgers. This will allow you to keep Cooper DeJean in the slot, which is, I think, his best position, because it allows you to use him in that versatile type of way. And then you bring back Isaiah Rodgers, who can play on the outside, played very well this year whenever thrust into duty, gives you special teams snaps as well. And I think that you can get him between $5 to $8 million. That's a pretty affordable price. So Zack Baun, re-signing with the Eagles. I want to hear from everybody watching this show. Grade the re-signing. A, B, C, D, or F? Let me know down in the comment section right now.